So, after discussing the ideal gas equation, relationship between temperature and kinetic energy, relationship between density and pressure, today we are going to start two new laws. And the first law of gaseous state, that is Gram's law of diffusion. Gram's law of diffusion. We have discussed it in the first chapter itself during determination of molecular mass of the substances. And before discussing this law, first of all we have to know what is diffusion and effusion. What is the difference between diffusion and effusion? So here first we have to discuss what is diffusion. Diffusion means the movement of particles. Diffusion means movement of particle from higher concentration to the lower concentration, that is known as diffusion. The movement of particle from higher concentration to lower concentration, that is known as diffusion. And effusion means the diffusion of the gas particle through a uniform hole, that is known as effusion. The diffusion of gas particle through a uniform hole, that is known as effusion. Now we have to discuss about the Gram's law of diffusion, and according to this law, rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to square root of the density. I am repeating, the rate of diffusion of the gas is inversely proportional to square root of the density. Rate of diffusion of the gas is inversely proportional to square root of the density, which can be written like this: R1 by R2, that is equal to N1 T2 over N2 T1, that is equal to V1 T2 over V2 T1, and that should be equal to root of D2 by D1, and that should be equal to root of M2 by M1. And this law is known as Gram's law of diffusion. Here R1, R2 are the rate of diffusion of the gases. R1, R2 are the rate of diffusion of the gases. N1, N2 are the number of moles of the gases. T1, T2 are the time. V1, V2 are the volumes. D1, D2 are the densities. And M2 and M1 are the molecular mass. And this law is for when pressure remains constant. But if pressure will change, then formula applied will be R1 by R2, that will be equal to P1 by P2 into N1 T2 over N2 T1, that should be equal to P1 by P2 into V1 T2 over V2 T1, and that should be equal to P1 by P2 over root of D2 by D1, and that should be equal to P1 by P2 into root of M2 by M1. And this is known as Gram's law of diffusion when pressure is changing. And first is generally the question may be regarding when pressure remains constant. Now I am taking the numericals. Already we have discussed in the first chapter, but that is a very important topic. That's why I am repeating here also, so that you can be comfortable and understand the concept of Gram's law of diffusion. First question might be, if a gas diffuses, at a rate 1/4 rate of diffusion of hydrogen gas, 1/4 of rate of diffusion of hydrogen gas, what is the molecular weight of this gas? What is the molecular weight of this gas? So here we can apply the formula R1 by R2, that should be equal to root of M2 by M1, we don't know the gas. Let's suppose that gas is X. So Rx over rate of hydrogen, that is given by 1 by 4. That should be equal to molecular mass of hydrogen, that is 2, over molecular mass of gas X is going to be required. So squaring both sides, we will get 1 by 16 is equal to 2 by mx. So molecular mass of the gas comes out to be 32 gram per mole. The molecular mass of this gas should be 32 gram per mole. Next question might be there. Compare the rate of diffusion of helium gas with methane gas. Question is there. Compare rate of diffusion of helium gas with methane gas. Here we can apply the formula rate of diffusion of helium upon rate of diffusion of methane, that should be equal to square root of molecular mass of methane upon molecular mass of helium. So putting these values here, molecular mass of methane is 16, molecular mass of helium is 4, so that comes out to be 2. So ratio will be 2:1, or we can say that helium will diffuse at a rate 2 times rate of diffusion of methane. Next question is there. If 2 gram of hydrogen gas diffuses, 2 gram of hydrogen gas diffuses through a uniform hole, then how much weight of oxygen gas will diffuse? How much weight of oxygen gas will diffuse under similar condition? Under similar condition, through same hole. So here the formula applied will be rate of diffusion of hydrogen upon rate of diffusion of oxygen, that should be equal to number of moles of hydrogen into time for oxygen upon number of moles of oxygen into time for hydrogen, and that should be equal to molecular mass of oxygen upon molecular mass of hydrogen. As conditions are same, so time will be same for both those. Now number of moles of hydrogen will be 2 over 2. Weight of oxygen we need to find W, and molecular weight is 32. So moles will be W by 32. That should be equal to molecular mass of oxygen is 32 and molecular mass of hydrogen is 2. Root of that comes out to be 4. From this data we come to know W should be equal to 32 by 4, and that comes out to be 8 gram. So 8 gram of oxygen will diffuse under similar conditions. Now next question I am taking. If 1 gram of helium, diffuses in given time, then how much weight of sulfur dioxide will effuse under similar condition. similar conditions. Under similar conditions. So here we can apply the same formula. Rate of diffusion of helium upon rate of diffusion of sulfur dioxide, that should be equal to number of moles of helium into time for sulfur dioxide upon number of moles of sulfur dioxide into time for helium, that should be equal to square root of molecular mass of sulfur dioxide upon molecular mass of helium. So putting the values here, weight of helium is 1, molecular mass is 4. For sulfur dioxide we need to find the weight, that will be W. Molecular mass is 64, that should be equal to 64 upon 4 root, that comes out to be 4. And from this data our W comes out to be 64 by 16, and that should be equal to 4 gram. I hope you understand this numerical. This is a very important one. Next numerical maybe on Gram's law of diffusion is that if 10 ml of hydrogen diffuses, 10 ml of hydrogen diffuses in 5 minutes, then what volume of oxygen will diffuse? What volume of oxygen will diffuse through the same hole under similar condition? Through the same hole in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes. So here we can apply the formula rate of diffusion of hydrogen upon rate of diffusion of oxygen, that should be equal to volume of hydrogen into time for oxygen upon volume of oxygen into time for hydrogen, that should be equal to square root of molecular weight of oxygen upon molecular weight of hydrogen. Putting these values here, volume of hydrogen is 10 ml, time for that is for oxygen is 10, volume of oxygen we need to find, and time for hydrogen is 5, that should be equal to root of 32 by 2, and that comes out to be 4. So volume of oxygen comes out to be 100 over 20, and that comes out to be 500. That comes out to be 500. I hope you understand this numerical too. Now, one more question I am taking on diffusion that has been asked in your competitive exams. Question is that if two bottles contains ammonia and hydrochloric acid gas, two bottles contain ammonia and hydrochloric acid gas and connected through a valve, and the valve is suddenly open, then in which bottle or which point the ammonium chloride vapors will appear first of all? Then our answer will be they will appear in the HCl bottle first of all, because rate of diffusion of ammonia is more than rate of diffusion of HCl. As we know, the rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to square root of molecular mass or density. Now, after discussing this, more questions will be available in your books. You can do the practice for that, and if any doubt is there, then you may ask me. Now, we have to discuss about the last gaseous law, which is also very important, and that law is known as Dalton's law of partial pressure. Dalton's law of partial pressure. Dalton's law of partial pressure. It is also an important law, and according to this law, it states that the total pressure exerted by the mixture of the gases. The total pressure exerted by the mixture of gases will be equal to sum of individual pressure exerted by each gas taken in same container under similar condition. I am repeating, the total pressure exerted by the mixture of the gases will be equal to sum of the pressures exerted by each gas taken in same container individually under similar conditions. That is known as Dalton's law of partial pressure, and according to it, P total will be equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3 up to in this way Pi. The total pressure of the gas should be equal to sum of pressure of each and every gas, where P total is the total pressure, P1 is the partial pressure of first gas, P2 is the partial pressure of second gas, same way Pi is the partial pressure of last gas. Here one more important formula is there. How can we find out the partial pressure of any gas? Partial pressure of any gas should be equal to mole fraction of the gas into total pressure. Partial pressure of any gas should be equal to mole fraction into total pressure. Now question might be there on this, and it is a very important topic. Let's suppose if a container contains 7 gram of nitrogen, 32 gram of oxygen, and 8 gram of methane at 720 mm of mercury, then what are partial pressure of each gas? What are the partial pressure of each gas? So here we can apply the formula mole fraction of the gas into total pressure. First we need to find out the number of moles of each gas. Number of moles of nitrogen should be 7 over its molecular weight 20, that comes out to be 0.25. Same way number of moles of oxygen, that should be equal to 32 upon 32, that comes out to be 1, and number of moles of methane, that should be equal to 8 by 16, and that comes out to be 0.5. Now we have to find out the partial pressure of nitrogen, that should be equal to number of moles of nitrogen upon total moles of the mixture of the gases, number of moles of nitrogen plus moles of oxygen plus moles of methane into total pressure, and that should be equal to 0.25 upon 1.75 into 720, and that comes out to be 720 by 7. Similarly, partial pressure of oxygen, that should be equal to 1 over 1.75 into 720. And finally, partial pressure of methane, that should be equal to 2 by 7 into 720 mm of mercury. I hope you understand this. Two more very important things I am going to discuss, that is, these are generally asked in your board exams as well as competitive exam. And the first one is, if PCl5 undergoes dissociation into PCl3 plus Cl2 gas, PCl5 plus Cl2 gas, and alpha is the degree of dissociation. Alpha is the degree of dissociation. Alpha is the degree of dissociation. then what is the partial pressure of PCl5, partial pressure of PCl3 and partial pressure of Cl2. Very important topic. Here first we have to write down the equation. PCl5 undergoes dissociation to give PCl3 gas plus Cl2 gas. Let's suppose when time t is 0, number of moles of PCl5 are 1, PCl3 0, Cl2 0. At equilibrium, if alpha is the degree of dissociation, then it will be 1 minus alpha, PCl3 5, PCl3 alpha and Cl2 alpha. So, partial pressure of PCl5 should be 1 minus alpha over 1 plus alpha into P. Similarly, partial pressure of PCl3, that should be equal to alpha upon 1 plus alpha into P, where P is the total pressure. Similarly, partial pressure of Cl2, that should be alpha upon 1 plus alpha into P, where alpha is the degree of dissociation and P is the total pressure. Similarly, second question may be there. If N2O4 gas, if N2O4 gas undergoes dissociation to give 2NO2 gas, N2O4 gas undergoes dissociation to give 2NO2 gas, and alpha is degree of dissociation and P is the total pressure, then what are the partial pressure of N2O4? Partial pressure of N2O4 and partial pressure of NO. Same way we may proceed. First we have to write down the equation. N2O4 gas is in equilibrium to give 2NO2 gas. When T is 0, then N2O4 will be 1, NO2 0. At equilibrium, it will be 1 minus alpha, then it will be 2 alpha. So, partial pressure of N2O4 will be 1 minus alpha upon 1 plus alpha into P. And partial pressure of NO2 will be 2 alpha upon 1 plus alpha into P. I hope you understand the concept of partial pressure. Now, one more law is there, and that is known as Amicanton's law of partial volumes. Amicanton's law of partial volume. Amicanton's law of partial volume. And according to it, for non-reacting gases, the total volume will be equal to sum of volume of each and every gas. According to this law, under similar condition of temperature and pressure, the total volume of non-reacting gases will be equal to sum of volume of each and every gas. Now question may be there. I have discussed in first chapter 2. If 100 ml of PH3 gas on thermal decomposition produces phosphorus solid and hydrogen gas, at STP, then what is the volume change? What is the volume change? What is the volume change? So here, first you have to write down the equation. PH3 gas on thermal decomposition will give P4 solid plus 3H2, or it may be 6NH2 H2 gas. So now when T is 0, total volume will be for TH3 and that is 100 ml. For phosphorus it will be constant because it is a solid, and for hydrogen that is 0, and at time T it will be total 100 is decomposed, it will become 0, and that should be equal to 6 by 4 into 100, and that should be 150 ml. So the volume increases by 50 ml. So the volume increases by 50 ml. I hope you understand. This is all about the gaseous law. Now we have to discuss a more important topic, and that is the compressibility factor. Compressibility factor. Compressibility factor. Compressibility factor. And the compressibility factor is denoted by Z, and that should be equal to PV upon nRT. And for ideal gases, Z should be equal to 1. For ideal gases, Z should be 1. And if Z is not equal to 1, then the gas will be real. Then gas will be real. And if value is Z is greater than 1, then the gas is more compressible. Gas is more compressible than ideal gas. More compressible than ideal gas. And if Z is less than 1, then the gas is less compressible, lesser compressible than ideal gas. I am repeating, compressibility factor is denoted by Z, and it should be equal to PV upon nRT, where Z is 1, then ideal gas. Z is not equal to 1, then it will be real gas. And the real gases can be of two types. If Z is greater than 1, then gases are more compressible than ideal gases. And if Z is less than 1, then the gases are lesser compressible than ideal gases. Now, on basis of ideal gas equation, we know the gas can be of two types. On basis of ideal gas equation, the gas can be of two types. The first one I have discussed, that will be the ideal gas, and the second one will be the real gas. Now question may be there regarding their difference in exam. Ideal gas and real gases. What are the basic difference between these two? Ideal gases and real gases. So the equation which obey ideal gas equation, they are known as, at cool condition of temperature and pressure, they are known as ideal gas. Those gases which obey ideal gas equation, PV is equal to nRT, at all condition of temperature and pressure, they are known as ideal gases. While real gases are those which do not obey ideal gas equation at all condition of temperature and pressure, they are known as real gases. Next point, that is very important, that is significant too, and that will decide mainly the difference between ideal and real gas. That is that the volume of each molecule of ideal gas in comparison to total volume is posed as negligible. Volume of each molecule of ideal gas in comparison to total volume is taken as negligible. But for real gases, the volume of each molecule in comparison to total volume is not taken as negligible. Third is also very important. The forces of attraction for ideal gases are taken as negligible, but for real gases, the forces of attraction are not taken as negligible. These two are the main difference between ideal and real gas. Next point is, the ideal gases will obey PV is equal to nRT, but real gases will obey real gas equation or van der Waals gas equation, T plus An square over V square into V minus Nb, that is equal to nRT. The real gases will obey P plus An square over V square into V minus Nb is equal to nRT. Next point will be, for ideal gases the work done will be maximum. For ideal gases work done will be maximum. For real gases the work done will be less than maximum. Next point is very important. For ideal gases compressibility factor is always 1. For ideal gases, the compressibility factor is always 1. For real gases, the compressibility factor is never equal to 1. It may be greater than or lesser than. And then last point will be, no gas is ideal in nature. Keep it in mind, no gas is ideal in nature. And the last, all gases are real in nature. All gases are real in nature. With this, I comes to end of today's class. It is a very important topic, gaseous state. So please study it carefully, do its numerical, ask your doubts. Till then, thank you. Stay connected, stay positive, and stay healthy. Thank you.